Boker Tov, Yom Tov, Zarin Tovim, and Lila Tov. Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you're at. This is Carrie. I am glad to be on here today. Brandon will be joining us shortly, but until he gets here, I just wanted to check in with everybody and see how we're doing. Looks like he's here, so we didn't have to wait too long. So he's probably tagging everybody to get in on the action. So let's bring Brandon aboard here. I did it again.
What's up?
I click you on and then I clicked it off and then I had to click it back on again. You know, one of these days I'll get all of this stuff figured out.
One of these
Anyway,
days we will get it
one
all
of
right.
these days. Don't know when that'll be, but it'll be one of these days.
That's
Good
right.
morning, Renee. We've got so far in the chat room, we have Renee Gade and Jamie Bartholomew. Good morning, you guys. We've got others joining, but those are the two that
What's up,
decided to
guys?
say hello so far. Oh, Sherry Prater White is joining us too. Hello, it's good to see you, friend. Freedom Fighter, you haven't missed anything. We just started literally 2 minutes and 15 seconds ago. So you haven't missed a darn thing other than me saying good morning to you in Hebrew, or good day, or good afternoon, or good evening. That's it. So it's all good. So how's your morning, Brandon?
It's been pretty good. Just like this whole freaking week has been. Just some reflecting and stuff. I'm glad I'm laughing at it too, but I'll be honest. Inside, like I want to cry
I
because
know.
like it's
I
not
know.
like a sadness cry or anything like that. It's just the energy release, the energies coming in have just been crazy on me this week. A lot
Yeah.
of things have been coming up in me
Yeah.
emotionally. I've kind of felt all over the place.
Yep.
And I know as like a lot of people, especially on Facebook and YouTube, they want to present like everything's cool all the time. I'm just floating on clouds and it's horseshoes and rainbow farts, but like it's not that all the time.
No, it's not right now. It has been a little intense. I will admit that too. My emotions have been all over the place. So, for me, I've just allowed them to flow through me. Identify that they're there, and if
Mm-hmm.
there's something that's tied to it, like what is this tied to? What is coming up? Is it collectively? Are we feeling everyone? Or is this specific to us? So, and
Yeah.
it's messy.
Yeah. Yeah, it has. And I'm hoping today that we can bring some clarity on some things because I've noticed, especially this past 2 weeks, the spirits place things on me to say that have been really uh, uh, hard to handle for some people and
Yeah.
really provoked a lot of other people with
Yeah.
some of the stuff I've been saying. And I'd like to clarify now because I'd love for us to get into. I sent you like I think Romans chapter 10, but for us to talk about, for you to talk about what the original languages are speaking about with Jesus, Yeshua, his intentions, his heart, his language in communicating. Did he want us to worship him in the sense of how the church worships him? And again, I want to say if people do that, I don't have a problem with that. This isn't an attack on anybody.
Mm-hmm.
When I say what I say, trust me when I say this, it's not easy for me to write some of the stuff that I write because I know that I'm going to be attacked. I know it. And I have a huge heart and I hurt, when people attack me and they might gaslight or make posts that I know is directly correlated to what I just posted, even though they might not include my name. It hurts.
It does.
I am flesh
Yeah.
and blood like you are.
Yeah.
And I don't intentionally set out to try to hurt somebody with what I say. I'm just
Right.
saying, just like Yeshua said, I'm just saying what I hear the Father say to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. And so
But I would like to.
you're bringing it out loud for other people to join in your thought process as the spirit's revealing things to you. As it's being revealed, you're having to wrestle through it, right?
Yeah.
So, You're
Exactly.
posting it and you're broadcasting it, but really you're broadcasting it so you can see it and read it for yourself as a way for you to process this new information. So in
Yeah, and some
reality,
of the
what you're doing, you are being very transparent with everyone. And if they could just see that as being a gift as to what it is with your transparency, I appreciate it because your words have value, your thoughts have value, because your wrestle is my wrestle. And to hear or to see those things that are coming in and the challenges helps me to get a hold of where I'm at too with some of the things and see how they link together. So, I think it's beautiful and I appreciate your transparency.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that, and that's exactly some of this stuff I'm talking about, I've been sitting on for a long time because
Yeah.
I've had to wrestle. But it's
Yeah.
not, we can wrestle with it inside of ourselves, and that's a different wrestle than when you broadcast it and actually put it out there
Right.
and you're met with opposition external from yourself. That's a whole different wrestle. That's a whole different
Yes.
battlefield right there, and a game, to actually say it out loud. So, I would just like for people, I respect and honor your journey wherever
Mhm.
you're at in that process. I respect it. I honor it. I'm not trying to be demeaning or put down. And that's all I would like is, for people to show the same. And I think we've lost that. I've seen this bickerment because of the English language, and it's been
Yeah.
a hard, me and you've had talks about that, to divorce ourselves completely and entirely from what we read in the English. And to
Mhm.
know that the original languages paint a whole different picture as to the process and what needs to happen, and what's taking place within us. But we hold on, and people are just bickering and going back and forth, back and forth.
I
The
know.
other day, I was I was riding, and I asked the spirit, I said, what is your kingdom? And of course, in like fashion, the spirit says, what is my kingdom? And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, but I just asked you, like, you know the answer. I want you to tell me. And the spirit's like, you are my kingdom. Everyone here is my kingdom. And I know this is English, but it says, you, does it not say that you are living stones? He said,
Mhm.
you are to build my kingdom. And that's to
Mhm.
build each other up, to help us through the lower animalistic nature that we have, and to help rise above it. That's the true work. It's not, and this is again not a shot at anybody, but it's not building temples and churches and mega churches and all this stuff, communities and everything. That stuff is good. I'm not saying it's not. And if the Father's laid that on your heart, by all means, do it. Okay. But the true building of the kingdom is your other selves that are fragmented out there, and building them up.
Exactly.
this
And
this
when
the
you
this
that's why
earth
you
can
need
pass away.
Yeah, exactly. That's why even looking at the Hebrew word for stone, it's really, really beautiful because it's Aleph, Bet, Nun. So Ben, son, one who builds, and then it has the Aleph in front of it. So in oneness we build.
Mm,
And that's as living stones. That's what we are to do. And with the Bet being on the inside, what we're doing is in oneness, we're building ourselves in the inside as we're dealing with our fallen flesh, because noon is a beautiful letter. It's got the risen side and it's got the fallen side, and it has the vav right in the middle. So if you why did you jump off?
we're back here.
Okay, I don't know what happened there.
Well,
But
lightning struck outside my house, and then
oh, that would
it.
probably be why. Oh, if we could just have some rain here, I would love to have some rain. It's so dry and it's so hot, and we need water. We need water really bad.
Gosh.
Anyway, so the noon, which is funny because the actual noon vav noon is another word for fish. So we're talking about the noon and talking about water, but it has a risen side and it has a fallen side, and it's connected right in the middle. And the center of any word is directly at the place of your heart. So this is
Mm,
connecting your risen nature to your lower nature and unifying them into one, which is in the Paleo Hebrew of the symbol, it means the seed of life.
mm,
So the seed of life is found within the heart in uniting the upper and the lower, the higher self and the lower self into the process of oneness unity. But in that is the wrestle. right? And so as living stones, when we're building ourselves on the inside, we have to deal with that fallen nature to bring it back into oneness unity. And that fallen nature is our beast ego, which is our wounded child, which is the shadow work that we need to do to bring it up, to raise it up so it's not separated from us. So it's that part of us that our higher self just doesn't want to look at. Like, I don't want to see those behaviors. That's not me. And it's like, yes, it is. And it's like where you posted on the video about you're rejecting half of yourself.
Yeah.
And you're rejecting the most important part, your child. Enter in as a little child. So how can you enter into the kingdom as a little child if you're rejecting the wounded child that is acting up because it needs your love and attention in unconditional love, so it knows it's safe to come back home into the heart, right? The heart is where the wounding takes place. So that wounded child rejects itself and gets locked in the lower chakras, and we have to coax its energy to come back home. Otherwise, it's just getting compressed down in the lower chakras in survival mode. And the whole aspect of having that heart pierced with the Vav in the middle of the risen noon and the lower noon is to unite them back to oneness unity. So it's a huge piece that we can't ignore. And, most of us had, our parents did the best they can. Now, you can look at it and you say there's crappy parents and there's great parents. And then there's the mix of everything in between. But when we get to the place where we're in adulthood, that doesn't matter anymore. Because you're still attaching to the narratives of the past, and you won't allow yourself to be freed from the past to live in your now. Just like if you project too far in the future, you're living in the future. What are you doing right now? Because that's the only thing that matters. So let's take the future promises and bring them into our now, and take the past wounds and bring them into our now, and unite them into our now as healed and whole.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, easier said than done.
That's right. It's hard.
Wrestle. That's what the wrestle is about. And we all.
That's the tough work. When Yeshua said, pick up your cross and follow me, that's your cross to bear. That's all of our cross to bear, and this is, I was in it and I get it, but this is why I love what y'all do. And one of the major purposes of me wanting to do these videos with y'all is because we've heard from Western Christianity that Jesus did it all for you. You can now kick back in your lawn chair and just reap the benefits. But even logically, as a parent, I have children, that makes no sense, because if I do everything for them, they truly learn nothing. And Yeshua said, I've come to bring you the teachings. I've come to show you the way you must walk if you want to unify your temple and not be a house divided against yourself. Exactly. But you have to do the work. I'll be here with you through it. I will encourage you. I will support you. I will give you strength. I will whisper encouraging things into your spirit, but you have to do the work yourself. I can't do that for you, because if I do, you've learned nothing.
Exactly. I'm posting some comments along the way, because we've got some really great comments as people are listening to what we're saying. And so thank you, Carrie. That's great. That's definitely where humanity meets divinity. That's absolutely beautiful. And I totally agree with that. It's helping us change the narrative, because, we're all wrestling. And as we post things out there, depending on where it's coming from, actually doesn't make a difference. What makes the biggest difference is how you receive the information, right? Because everything that is posted, everything that is spoken, everything that is shared is a catalyst in one way or another. So is it drawing us closer into oneness unity? Is it bringing forth issues and wounds that need to be healed? Because it's our perceptions of where we are in the mix of connecting the higher and the lower together that will give us a whole clue. That's why I was sharing with you last week about that. The world and people prophesy to us on a daily account. We don't need a prophet to come and tell us anything. We need to look at that which is prophesying to us on a daily basis in all of our interactions. If we have our eyes to see that, if we're truly in the manner of, look, I am wanting to glean everything that I can for my maturation, because the signs and signals are everywhere. And you will learn from everything, including your animals. I
That's right.
remember a couple of years ago, well, it's been longer. It was before I started this sacred languages, and the spirit said, pay attention to the dog. Watch the dog. I'm like, okay. And so
Mm,
for like 6 months, I'm just watching the dog. I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for this great revelation, and I'm watching everything the dog's doing.
mm.
You know, it's just the way my world is I'm okay, hear the spirit say something, watch the dog. And so I'm really this waiting for this really grand, profound revelation. And the spirit at the time. So the spirit said, that's you. Now, I had no concept of oneness back then. But what I saw was this animal, this friend, this pet that had all the range of emotions that I do. She would get sad, she would get happy, she would get jealous, she would get angry, she would get fearful, you name it. She experienced all the emotions that I do. And I just watched her. If you're an empath, you pick up on your animals. You know what they're saying to you. They don't have to use words. They
That's right.
they communicate just fine. They communicate just fine. And so I was able to read all of that, and all of a sudden that's when I began to get the revelation that we are just as the beasts. We're the same.
Hmm.
Well, the difference is when they work in a pack or in a herd, they already have oneness unity, and we do not.
That's right.
So that was the greater revelation later. I first had to realize, okay, wow, I'm seeing the same in my dog as I am me. That's really interesting. Okay, file it away. And then as more information and more light came in, I was able to see, oh, wait a minute. Okay, this is what's going on. And as more light came in, then I was beginning to see my shadow side. So it's just been a progression of these simple baby steps for the spirit gleaning that we're taking. And that is how the language is.
That's right. Yeah.
So when you enter into the language, you are going to get fractals of light that may not be these deep, profound, blow your mind stuff, but it's enough that it's coming in as light that will allow you to begin to see some of that shadow creeping out.
Hmm.
And so my warning for people is if you do not want to do your shadow work, if you want to stay in high vibes only and just stay in the light and not look at your shadow, do not study the languages. Do not enter in at all, because soon as you do, you will have to face your shadow, because
Hmm.
you will not get any more revelation from the language than the shadow that you're willing to incorporate into you in unconditional love. I know this firsthand. I'm speaking from experience here, and I've witnessed it with other people. I've witnessed other people jump into the language and then jump right back out because they weren't willing to deal with the shadow side, because the shadow was raising up at the same time.
Yeah.
It has to be that way because it's all about bringing balance. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's wonderful to get these revelations, but the cost is that you can't hide in your shadow anymore,
Hmm.
or you
Yeah.
can't hide your shadow, or however you want to see it. It is going to come up and it will surface.
That's right.
Again, that's how I found out all of my healing stuff. That's how I found out that I had multiple personalities. It was all of this stuff that had been buried and suppressed, all these multiple egos that were running simultaneously. And I was not aware of it until I got more light through the language. And gently, a little bit at a time, there was more and more stuff happening. And I was diving into it like 10 hours a day. So 10 hours a day of studying, of course, all this darkness just went and shot out of me from my wounded inner child that was like, okay, now you have enough light. Now you have enough support. Please deal with us.
Hmm.
Please deal with us. We're stuck. We're hurting. We want to be let go from the prison that you put us in.
Hmm.
I'm going to say that again. We want to be let go from the prison you put us in.
That's right. That's right. And we're gonna have to, that's the thing is, you like you said, you can be in the light and all that all you want to, but eventually at some point, it might not be this life, we're all gonna have to face our shadow. We're all gonna,
Yes, we will.
because if not, you're incomplete. You're not whole. You're not complete. And on our journey and evolutionary process, this is where, a lot of people don't want to look in extra biblical texts and stuff like that. But if there wasn't truth and information outside of that, why did they burn the libraries in Egypt? Why did they
Exactly.
burn the libraries in Europe? Why did they? They did it
Exactly.
because there was important stuff that helped us on that journey of
Yes,
doing this. The raw law of one material goes really deep in that.
I know.
Again, I encourage people. The Book of Urantia. I just picked that up today. Started reading that a little bit. Even though I've skimmed through it before, but on our evolutionary process back to total complete unity. That was the post I wrote about today. You started out in total complete unity, and
Hmm.
it was provoked by a post I read where someone had said that that the creator is not darkness or sadness or pain or hurt, and we're geared to only attribute good qualities to the creator, not the darkness and sadness and pain. But even in the English version that we have, it said that he has suffered in every single way that we can suffer, as to be sympathetic to our weaknesses. So that's what the English says,
And
but
how does he learn that? How does he learn that? Through
through
us.
experience.
Because
Yeah,
we are
through
the
us.
fractals of source creator. So the creator, as in consciousness that created all things, learns through the fractal experiences that we are experiencing creation, so it can learn of itself in
That's right.
what all of it is. So when we see that we are adding to, it's interesting because in the book of Urantia it talks about the supreme being.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, just, it was so crazy. He's got stuff that, well, we got to get recording and stuff, but he's working his butt off right now to pay for his daughter's wedding. So we, the morning time, we haven't been doing any recording sessions, he and I, and he's got like 80 pages of stuff to share about the supreme being. But one morning when we did get a chance to talk, he showed me some Hebrew words that talked about the supreme being, and I went, that is so fascinating, because that's what Urantia talks about.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about that all of our experiences are going into making the supreme being.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Ken found it, because Ken doesn't read any outside sources, he just doesn't. He doesn't watch outside videos. He doesn't read outside source material. It's all spirit driven,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the way he's supposed to operate. So I went, well, that's interesting, because that's what the Book of Urantia says. And he goes, well, it's right here. And he said, Spirit's been talking to me. And so we went through that. So know that hopefully within a couple weeks, those teachings will be coming out so that you can see it in the
Awesome.
language itself, explaining that, of what the purpose of our fractal pieces are and what they are doing, because it's our becoming as well.
Mm-hmm.
As I noticed that, the image that Father kept giving me, Abba, source origin, through spirit, was the Matroika doll, the Russian doll, right?
Yep.
So when you take it out in all these pieces, you got the big one, right? And then you got the little pieces. And then the little piece gets absorbed, and then it gets absorbed, and then gets absorbed, and then gets absorbed to the one big Matroika doll.
Mm-hmm.
Well, every time we move and we advance and we become into more and more oneness, that's what we're going back to. And so the ego is afraid of losing itself, but you gain everything, because
Mm-hmm.
at that point you are merging. So you are all consciousnesses. You are all experiences. So,
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, I'm Brandon, I'm Carrie, I'm Ken, I'm Jesse, I'm Noelle, I'm Sherry, I'm, Paul, I'm Jamie, I'm Renee. I am all.
That's
So all I
right.
have to do is tap into those experiences and experience what Renee's living out or what Brandon is living out. You don't lose anything. The ego is what tells us that lie. And
That's
it's
right.
the ego that fears these things when it's the most beautiful thing ever. I mean, tapping into that, being able to be into the oneness and have all of it, because that is what the collective consciousness is, the social memory complex that Rob talks about, right? You have access to go into all of those things, and think about how much more love we would have for one another if I was able to tap into Brandon and all of the experiences you've had, to see where your pain and suffering came from, to see where my pain and suffering came from, so that we can join together in unconditional love. Like, to know yourself is to be true, right?
That's right.
Well, when we tap into that, we know everyone. to be true,
Right.
because truth is that information of our experiences, and it's only us that are taught to judge these things as good and evil. It was
Mm-hmm.
like, it's an experience. It's an amazing experience to see the tapestry of who we are and what we are creating and what we're going to and what we will be. And it's
Mm-hmm.
actually who we are now. We just haven't accessed that part of that consciousness yet because of the limitation we put on our mind. But
That's
I will
right.
tell you that, like, even through the journey of the languages, every single time I dive into the language, I get more light. More light is more revelation. More revelation means more is being revealed to me. And those things that are limiting are now being removed
Mm. Yeah.
because I'm getting to experience more, see more, expand my consciousness, take those limitations off. And that's how
Mm-hmm.
I was able to remember a lot of my past lives. It was going in there, more light, more expanded consciousness, pulling from the Akashic records. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So it
Yeah.
gave, what it did is it allowed me to have more compassion for myself, which then allowed me to have more compassion for others
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because it reciprocates,
Mm-hmm.
which is part of the definition of the word shalom. To can be completed in mind, body, and state, to be friendly, and to reciprocate. So
Mm.
that which I have on the inside, I reciprocate out to you. So if I'm walking in shalom, I'm going to reciprocate that out towards you so that you are in a place of shalom when we are in each other's sphere.
Mm. That's beautiful.
I don't want to bring chaos to your sphere.
No, no. And that's one thing I've been learning because this Tuesday I'm going in for my QHHT session. And for those that don't, I'm sure everybody here probably knows, but it's the same work as like Dolores Cannon, Michael
Mhm.
Newton, quantum healing, hypnotic therapy. And I would have never even thought about doing this several years ago, but I was feeling led by the spirit to do it, so I'm going to do it. But as I'm reading Michael Newton's book, I could see like this beautiful picture being painted where it talks about like the little newborn souls, and you go to the spirit realm and you're studying the Akashic records in the spirit realm, and then you come to this place called Earth to play out that role for the experience, to truly be immersed in it and really know what it is, pain, whatever it is you're studying in that soul group. But now they have assistant teachers, and then they have ones higher. But Michael hasn't said this in the book yet, and I haven't finished reading it, and I don't know if he put it together or if he will say this. But for me, it was like, if there is only one and only being, then these levels of teachers down to newborn souls, everything under the one infinite being is just a fragment of that one soul. So the little souls are a part of the oversoul that's over that whole soul group, because it talks about how it's broke down into families. And so this is where we would incarnate with certain soul groups throughout many incarnations to learn lessons and help each other grow. And because we're not separate, but we are separate, is what he says these people are saying from the spirit world. And that would be like the different colors of auras, and as you graduate in densities and elevate in consciousness, it's you merging with you. That's all it ever is. It's you merging back into yourself, and you get closer
Exactly.
and closer and closer to that
Exactly.
oversoul.
Exactly. Which is actually something that's a great segue into what Spirit shared this morning that I needed to share. We are going to go back into what we were talking about yesterday, when we were private messaging each other about, Romans 10 and Acts 2, and we will cover those because you did bring
Good.
that up. But based on what we are discussing right now, this is a perfect segue into what the Spirit was sharing this morning. I had a eureka movement. There was champagne going everywhere this morning. you know, I'm staying at the house that we're house sitting for. So Ken comes up in the morning at like 6:30 in the morning, so I can have my morning quiet time, and we'll chat about what Spirit's saying. And so he started talking, and then I was connecting some massive dots because it was triggered. It was triggered off of what you had posted yesterday on the TikTok video, with the Native Americans and Yah and Yod Hey Vav Hey, right? Yod Hey Vav Hey, Yod Hey Wa, Yo, however you want to pronounce it, the Tetragrammaton. And it was stuff that was marinating in me. And so Ken starts talking and he's sharing some of his things with his revelations. And all of a sudden there was this huge eureka revelatory moment. And I am skipping around in the kitchen and I'm hooting and hollering because I was like, and so my response was this. I was like, yes, revelation, another shadow that's going to be integrated, because every single time you get revelation, be prepared. Another part of your shadow is going to be revealed. And I'm like, this is beautiful. This is how wholeness and healing happens. Taking that light of what you got, shine it in there and see what needs to be dealt with, what wound is surfacing, and bring it forward. So if you would allow me to share, I would love to be able to share it. And then we'll move on to what you wanted to also talk about. I mean, I got the Brandon file is like 10 pages long by now because we have all these bullet points. Well, we should talk about this. Well, we should talk about this. And sometimes we never get to those points. So it keeps expanding. I'm like, one of these days we will. Yeah. There's like lots of material that we can cover and stuff that we're digging out and sharing with one another. So I even had on there about Yeshua wanting us to worship him. And I wanted to show the first occurrence of what the word worship was, which kind of I broke down to you briefly in private message that you posted yesterday as well. So let's look at, I'm going to show you my little, I put some pictures together this morning to explain it. And I'm just going to show that. That's what I figure I'm going to do. So I'm going to go through the pictures. So let me do a screen share here.
Was this in your video this morning?
No.
Okay.
No, that was Vitruvius Man. So that Vitruvius Man is kind of funny because that Vitruvius Man was the slideshow that I was trying to share with you guys last week, but I didn't realize that Restream didn't actually stream the slideshow. So you just saw my PowerPoint work page and you saw nothing. I was like, oh, how awful, how embarrassing. So that's why I decided to post that Vitruvius Man video this morning to help go, hey guys, this was like the last 25 minutes of our conversations. So you can see the slideshow about what we were talking about.
I didn't want to say anything, but
I wish you would have, Brandon.
Well, look, I figured everybody else could see it, but when you were like, "Do you see that move?" In my mind, I was like, "I didn't see nothing move. Like, is there something supposed to be happening here?"
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh yeah, I didn't know that it didn't work until I started watching the video last night to just see where we were at, to see if there was a place to pick up, and I was like, oh my gosh, nobody saw anything. And I'm pointing things out. I'm having my own little PowerPoint presentation by myself.
I figured everyone else maybe could see it. So I was like, nope. Maybe it's just something on my end. I'm not going to say nothing.
Well, and it was so funny because you were like so focused intently on the screen as I'm looking in your face. I'm like, he's seeing nothing. He's seeing nothing. He's seeing nothing.
Yeah. I was trying to find it, man. I was like, something's got to be moving on this screen. It's got to be.
Oh no. So it's all right. Humility, it's all good. I learned something new about Restream. See, I can do that on Zoom. I can't do it on Restream, but on a Zoom session, I can do a PowerPoint presentation at the same time. Okay, so back to what we were talking about here. Now my face is all red. Okay.
Laughing's good.
Yes, it is. So what we're looking at right here is this is kind of a makeshift Aleph. This is the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And it looks a little funky because that's intentional, because I want to show this to you. I was really meditating on what the great deception truly is. And the great deception is that we've been divided because the number 1 is indivisible. You can't divide 1. I mean, you can fractal it out, right? But 1 can't be divided. 1 divided by 1 is still 1.
Yeah.
It's indivisible. So when we believed that we were divided from 1 is when the great deception came in. Now, I can show this to you. We're gonna go through this. So This is what the aleph looks like when it's pulled apart.
Mm-hmm.
Is an upper yod and a lower yod, and it has the vav that connects. So think of your higher self, your lower self, and the vav is you in your now. Now keep following me here. In gematria, so for those of you who don't know, every single Hebrew letter has a numerical value attached to it. So the yod has a numerical value of 10, and the vav has a numerical value of 6. So when you take these parts that got separated, it equals 26. Why is that important? Because of this.
Wow.
So the yod, the hey, the vav, the hey, these are all of their gematria totals, and they equal 26. So yod hey vav hey, the tetragrammaton, is connected to the aleph.
Wow.
That's a big revelation. And when you do toroidal math, or when you compress it down to the single digits, that would be 8, which would be a symbol of affinity, which would be also new beginnings. The spiritual meaning of the number 8 is new beginnings, but it also is the infinity sign, because 2 plus 6 is 8.
So if the one you showed, the aleph divided, was 26, then that would be the one that was divided into the 2 or many.
Yes. Yes. And so again, think of macro and micro here. It's always macro and micro, micro and macro. So individually, in our fractal portions, we were divided. So the upper yod and the lower yod, our higher self and our lower self. And yod dalet has the same gematria total of the word kazah, which means to have a vision. And kazah is het, zayin, hey. So when you total all of those up, so whenever you hear me say when I say yod and I connect it to vision, it's because they're gematria. Any word that has the same gematria of another word, they are connected to one another. So to have a vision of your higher self, and to have a vision of your lower self as man standing in the middle, because 6 is the number for man. So man in the middle has a vision of its higher self, and it has a vision of its lower self. And it's trying to figure out how to bring the 2 of them back together again.
Wow.
But the deal is that they were never separate. Again, the great deception is that they are separate when they're not. They're still all one. Yeah. So yod hey vav hey, the illusion. Yod hey vav hey, as being an oversoul over us, is what is helping us be able to bring all of the pieces back together. Now, where I want to go with this is yod hey, because yes, we can go look at the Psalms, and based on that video that you saw, or that you shared, that TikTok video, and it was talking about yod hey is the name of God, right? But look at the gematria of yod hey.
6.
6 is the number of man, and it's also a number that equates to sin. And sin, and we've already explained that before, sin is anything that separates, because when you look at how sin is spelled, it's het, tet, aleph. So separating, wrestling, oneness. So anything, but it's also the het means life. So if you're separating and you're wrestling in oneness, as soon as you find life, you've then taken that wrestle, you've overcome it, and you've now become one. The resolve is always found in the letters. So if you're looking and you need to see something resolved in a word, or where you're at in your struggle, take a look what the letters are telling you. So you got divided and separated, but yet when you find life, it's the power of the covenant. And eventually, when I get all of my teachings put together, all of this will make much more sense when I share these words. It's like, how are you connecting that? Where are you getting it from? From the letters themselves. Right. So if sin is anything that separates, this is why it's so important that we have to have the divine masculine and the divine feminine, because yod hey is a representation of mother who shares the divine masculine. Now, why does mother share the divine masculine? Now, and I want you to connect this to what should have been your parents. Okay. So your mother was supposed to share with you divine masculine. Why? Because that's how we build linearly. This is how we understand time linearly. This is how we understand 1 + 2 = 3 and 3 + 5 = 8. Everything is linear in fashion, and it's about the external orientation of our world. I mean, look at Legos stacking blocks, right? We're building. This is how you become the son that builds.
Wow.
Now, you still have a second portion to go through. You have the Vav He to go through. So if you stay at Yod He and you want to call, if this is for the external orientation, because you're still in mother's teaching of the divine masculine, you would stop and you would call God Yah. Yod He, the power that reveals divine masculine, the son who builds. Now that's perfect. That's fine. We need that. But we're meant to move a little bit further than that.
That's right.
Now let me show you this. Now moving on. Sin is anything that separates. Rebellion is the willingness to keep separating when you know that we are one.
Wow.
So think of the shadow world, those that refuse to enter into the light. What do they continue to do? Separate and divide all of us.
That's right.
Because they're in rebellion. Because they know the fact. If you read some of their writings that have leaked out there, it said that and I think there was a document that, well, I don't even want to mention the names, but one of them that is operating in the shadow world and has been the family for a very long time put a document that said that the one thing that we have to do is we have to keep them from knowing that they are one.
Oh, yep.
That was the bottom paragraph of this document. They cannot know that they are one. So if you know that you are one, and we know that we are all one, and you get that revelation, yet you continue to divide and separate, you are flat out in rebellion.
Exactly right.
Because the spiritual energy, the spiritual gravity is drawing us into oneness unity. Now, let's look at He Vav He. So, Yod He Vav He. Okay, now Hava, I should have put Hayah here first too, but Hava is the 3 letters, the revelation that connects to the revelation. So we took off the Yod, we're just looking at Hava. One revelation that connects to the other revelation. Mother that connects to father is Hava. And when you look at the total number of Gematria, it comes into 16, which is 7, which is the number for divine spiritual perfection. It relates to the Zayin, which is the number 7, which is the sword and the plow. And why is it the sword and the plow? Because it cuts off that which no longer serves you and digs up and plows the fallow ground so seed can be planted in.
Yeah.
It's all about the heart, because the Vav is in the center, and the center of any word has to do with your heart. And the Vav is a tent peg. It's something that pierces and connects. So these twin revelations of mother and father are meant to connect in your heart. So you have divine spiritual perfection. You have to have this.
Yeah.
Have to. Moving a little further. Now, let's take a look at what happens when the Yod He becomes Yod Aleph. There's a reason why I'm sharing this, because the He and the Aleph are interchangeable. They are silent letters. He is the exhale of the spirit breath. Aleph is the inhale of the spirit breath. That's why the Bible doesn't start with an Aleph, because it had to be the inhale of oneness that could speak Bereshit. Bereshit.
Wow. That's beautiful.
So in the beginning was oneness, and and in the inhale, it spoke forth Bereshit. And that's why I just posted that video a couple days ago about what Bereshit and covenant is all about. The covenant of fire that was in the beginning, that created. So Yod Aleph, there's a point I'm getting here. I just keep following along. I know these don't seem interconnected, but they are. Yod Aleph, 10 plus 1 equals 11. 11 renders down through toroidal math to 2, the second letter in the Hebrew alphabet. Bet Tov. Bet Tov is the second letter and the 22nd letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Bet Tov means daughter, one who has been built, that is worthy and deserving, and has been marked with a covenant. So remember, I was sharing with you the Ben, the son that builds, Yod He, the daughter that builds through Yod Aleph, is the one that is worthy and deserving, went through the 222 journey, the 2 paths of the 22 letters of the Hebrew and the Aramaic that built the spiritual family through the power of oneness.
Wow.
Okay, where am I going with all of this, Carrie? Where am I going with this? Please, what are we doing here, right? Okay, so we're to that blown apart Aleph again. That's the great deception. We got the power of mother and the power of father. Earthly mother should have taught the divine masculine for the son to build. The earthly father teaches the dark, the hidden, the divine feminine, which is giving you the power and the energy to connect to your lower self, that shadow side of you, to give you the power to do it through the esoteric teachings that give you more light, like it's like a boosting of light to go into the darkness to bring everything back together. Why is this so important? And this was the revelation that I absolutely freaked out this morning. Let's connect this to the chakra system, though, because this is a piece that we cannot miss. And I'm going to try to blow this up here a little bit. Is that, you guys can see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, bigger. You guys can see it. All right. So if the lower self is from the solar plexus and the sacral and the root, which is our survival mechanism, and our higher self is from the throat, speaking truth, our brow, which is the third eye, and the crown, which is where we are fully lit, the place that shows the mark of who we are, the center point is the heart. It is connecting the upper and the lower together. So you've got Yod He of mother and Vav He of father that are supposed to connect into unity, but they've been blown apart as 2 separate portions to deal with the fact that we divided, which was the great deception. They had to purposely divide into Yod He Vav He in order to do that.
Yep.
Why am I freaking out so bad? Okay, so it's connected to our chakras. I totally get it. I don't even know. No, I didn't do another slide. So the reason why I'm freaking out about this, let me go back to the Yod Aleph. This also had to do, so you helped me with this piece with the Yod He, that God is love, Yod He. But the piece that was missing that I freaked out this morning that I connected to when we were talking is Yod Aleph is the complete coming together of the He, Vav, He, no longer divided. The power of oneness. Now, the reason why, again, this is so profound is that when we find oneness unity, Yod He, Vav He no longer has to be divided. They separated from themselves, and the divine feminine was totally removed. So the divine masculine has been all alone, waiting to be united with the divine feminine because mankind has kept them apart.
Wow. Wow.
This is why Yod He Vav He is not in the New Testament. We were talking about how Yeshua was the manifestation of Yod He Shin Vav He in the flesh. And his whole job was to bring that divine feminine back, but he had to be a presentation of being mother. He had to reparent everyone. I am the mother and father, but I need to reparent you through mother first because everything that you're building is crap. You are raping, pillaging, and plundering. You're not having any concern for the earth or the people because you're trying to build a kingdom that is not sustainable. The only thing that is sustainable within the earth is bringing the divine feminine back, because then we have balance. Then we have the ability to create from a place of wholeness instead of being fractured. Because what do? In Yod-Hey, if we get stuck in the divine masculine, we are not dealing with our wounds. So everything that we're creating is not going to have any regard for that which would bring healing and wholeness to us. It's separate, it's division, it's raping, pillaging, and plundering, taking the resources from the earth because it has no heart.
Yeah.
I'm a son who builds, but I'm staying in my fallen flesh. Ben, fallen noon, and I'm just going to keep building. I'm going to take all of that energy that's coming from my shadow side, all of that anger, all of that frustration, all of that pain. That energy's got to go somewhere, but I don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to start building shit.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm going to tear down forests. I'm going to encroach on all of the animals in their habitat, so they have to come into our cities that we built with our roads and highways and big tall buildings. I'm gonna create power systems, and I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna charge up the wazoo because I was treated unfairly as a child, and I need to have something that makes me feel better. I'm gonna build my kingdom so I stay on the top, and you can't touch me.
Woo.
Build and build and build and build everything that's not sustainable. You just take a look at the mudslides, you take a look at the floods, you take a look at earthquakes, and what does it do? It levels it all.
That's right.
Because it's not sustainable. The earth is pushing back. Now, I'm not talking about the green agenda. Please, I'm not even going there politically. I'm saying that which we build is not sustainable, is not going to be held up in Gaia as she is moving in these energies and is ascending. So we need to get our acting gear, and we need to deal with our wounded child so that what we are building is sustainable, because we're building ourselves as being one who is worthy and deserving, that went through the process of Yod-Hey Vav-Hey, so that they can be divided, or not no longer divided, but they can be unified. It's only going to happen when we find unification in us, which is the divine sacred wedding, masculine and feminine. Now listen, masculine and feminine. If you take a look at the tree of life, mother is a representation of the fierceness of what is the word that they use? Severity. Mother is severity, father is mercy. Mm-hmm. If you live in the severity side all of the time, you are way out of balance.
That's right.
If you live in mercy all the time, you are going to be walked all over. Oh, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm afraid of saying something, Oh, let me run to your rescue, and you can take everything from me, narcissist, because I'm going to continue to serve you because I'm just full of mercy and grace while you're tromping all over me.
That's right.
Now,
That's
severity on the other side is, you are not going to hurt me. I'm going to tromp all over you, and I'm going to take from you because I'm asserting myself and my authority. Mm-hmm. It's only when we bring the two of them together that we get into the place of sustainability. It's called the path of the arrow, the path of the mystic, that takes both sides, that masculine and feminine energy of the severity and the mercy, and brings them into oneness, unity. And when you go that way, it activates, it goes into the hidden place, Dodd, which is the place of our heart, and it reveals that which is necessary to activate the light on the crown. The crown chakra, because then your toroidal field begins to not be out of balance. Ken talks about you can't have a starship as a Merkaba with an extreme wobble because it won't fly. So you have to balance the energies. And that's why this is so important, to be able to understand this concept and see that you can't have Yod-Hey without the Vav-Hey. Because if you can't, then you can't be Yod Aleph. Now, the reason, I'll land the plane on this. The reason why I was freaking out so much is if you go into the Peshitta, Yod Aleph is everywhere. Mm-hmm. Everywhere. It is Yah. You would say Yah, but it's not Yod Hey. It's Yod Aleph. The power of oneness, because you have had that sacred wedding happen within you. You united Yod He Vav He, and that's why Yod He Vav He isn't there. So Yod He Shin Vav He came to show us the way of one, to unify Yod He Vav He, so that they were no longer divided, so that they could have the sacred union.
Okay,
Are you like, this is so big. We are holding Yod He Vav He apart.
Mm-hmm. So is Yod He Vav He, once they've been come together, is no longer Yod He Vav He, but Yah. Am I understanding that correctly?
But spelled Yod Aleph,
Aleph.
not
Yod
Yod
Aleph.
He. Yod
Because
Aleph.
the reason I asked that is because in the English translation we read, right? We read in Revelation that says, those that overcome, those that overcome, those that overcome, I will give a new name, which no one knows but you. It'll only be told to you when you unite the Yod He and the Vav He together and you come into the oneness. Now you're no longer separate, you're Yah. Yod Aleph.
Yod Aleph.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. And it's the power of oneness, because Yod it means power, means, and direction, the power of oneness. And oneness, when you look at the Aleph, we know that Aleph means to be taught and then to teach. It means to be yoked and tamed. It means 1,000-fold, or to create thousands. And it means family, to associate as family. It's the representation, it's the letter that represents God, and it's the representation of the Spirit and the mystery of the one who are many. All of that is encapsulated in the Aleph. So that power of oneness is coming in, and that is where it's a new frequency. It's no longer divided. It is all inclusive. So when we say Yah, when we focus it from our heart and with the intent of our head, knowing the Yod Aleph, we are creating that as a new reality, no longer separated from that second Hey. Because listen, the divine masculine doesn't want to deal with the shadow. That's why the divine masculine pushes that feminine energy away, because it doesn't want to go and take a look at those things, because that's where all the pain and suffering is. It's like, just keep cramming it into that shadow, cram it into the shadow. I'm not looking at it. It's under the rug. And right now that rug is like as big as an elephant, but I'm not seeing it because I refuse to look at it.
And for me, that's what like the Valley of Gehenna always represented, was kind of those lower three chakra regions, because we always take everything that happens to us until we're taught and learn differently, right? We just take and we shove it down. We shove it down into that valley. I'm not saying that's what it says in the original language, but just in my mind, it's like that's the pit, that burns with fire and it doesn't cease until you go in and clean it out and it has nothing left to burn.
Right. So Renee said, is it not backwards to say father is mercy and mother is severity? In our reality, the father is one who spanks and the mother comforts. Well, it really depends, because my mother used a wooden spoon and she was just as effective to spank my little hind end.
But even in that, Carrie, you said, right, that mother teaches you father's teachings, father teaches you mother's teachings. Did you say that?
So mother teaches the divine masculine, and divine masculine is the mother's teaching. Father teaches the divine feminine, which is so mother's teaching is, so it gets confusing because we don't take in consideration balance. Mother has to teach things of the divine masculine. Father has to teach things of the divine feminine, because it has to be balanced in the system of duality. The divine feminine is the hidden teachings, the stuff that's all based upon your inward revelation. Mother teaches the external orientation of how the golden rule, right? She teaches you the external orientation. So if you're doing things and misbehaving in the external orientation, that's where the spankings or the groundings come in. Or if your mother didn't spank you, she would say, wait until your father came home, because father then would spank you, as being the authoritative figure. But that's because we were put in a patriarchal society that was heavy father, as in the masculine entity. But the masculine entity was supposed to be sharing the divine feminine. So you can see how everything got flipped around? Because in actuality, if we were to do it in a perfect world, okay, I'm just using perfect world, father would be busy doing agricultural things, would be growing the food, would be dealing with the husbandry, with the animals and everything else, would be very busy doing things to provide for the family. Mother
Mm,
would be staying home raising the children into the age of 12. Within the child would then receive the son and daughter of the commandments so that they could go and assist the father and to learn the father's business. So when would the father teach? In the practical doing and taking all the examples inward,
mm,
teaching the divine feminine by that which he does with his hands in the finessing of, now you take this external orientation as a son that builds. Now we're going
mm,
to build stuff, but we're going to use this building process to show you how to build yourself on the inside, divine feminine. Oh, by the way, you're going to have frustration. You're going to have anger. You're going to be frustrated because you don't know how to run a plow. You don't know how to shoe a horse. You don't know how to build anything. You're going to you're going to take a hammer and hit your thumb. Guess what?
mm.
Pressure pain is going to show your beast ego. Hey, look, now we got to deal with that ego that just showed up and just manifested and blew up all over the place. And I'm teaching you while we're doing.
I find that very interesting. I know Dean commented before we started on this, so if he's on here and I'm wrong, he can correct me. But in Hopi culture, the Hopi Indians out in Arizona, that's how it is. The father goes out and he tends the fields and all that stuff and does that. The mother stays home with the children and everything like that. But the mother, the feminine, actually owns everything. The men don't own anything. The women are the ones that own the land, they own the house, they own it all, but they also take care of that. So the man's job comes out. In weddings, before a woman gets married, the men are the ones who make her wedding dress.
Wow.
So like you see that in their culture, which all this stuff when I went out there, and then I'll let you get back. This is what gave me little clues, even things that I didn't understand when I first went out there, that show me these people know way more than we give them credit for. And we can learn from them. We could learn a lot from them based on westernized Christianity and our culture and how most of us have been raised. These people could teach us so much because they're in tune with that on a spiritual level. They don't really need the book. They live the book. They live it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you'll find this interesting that in the ancient Hebrew wedding, in that ancient culture, the wedding ketubah, which would be considered the contract if you want per se, but it really wasn't. It was an agreement that was written. This is interesting because katab is the word that means to write. Katab, het. I'm not going to say. It's been a while since I've looked at this word, so it's either a tav or a tet, but I don't want to misquote it. But it has a hey on the suffix side, which is revealing something. The ketubah was written as a way to protect the wife.
Wow.
There was
Wow.
nothing for protection of the husband. It was all about protecting the wife
Mm-hmm.
because the wife is the one that would need to be provided for because of the progeny, because what she did was so important in rearing the kids. Because think about where the trauma starts. Trauma
Mm-hmm.
usually starts from the age of 0 to 6. So
Mm-hmm.
everything was put into a place to provide safety for the family unit so the mother could raise the children in the way they should go,
Mm-hmm.
having been completely provided for in a safe and secure environment, because she had the hardest job, dealing with the beast ego and dealing with an unruly child and being able to handle them gently enough, but also with as much severity needed to make sure that they learned the golden rule so that they weren't out there hurting each other. I mean, look at what little kids do when they get frustrated. They scratch and they bite and they pull hair and they punch and they kick.
Yeah.
They can't communicate stuff. Hey, you
Mm-hmm.
need to learn the golden rule. It's not good to go punch your sister in the face. So let's learn how to communicate a little bit differently as they mature. Why was it not good for you to punch your sister in the face? Okay, I'm talking from my own personal childhood. My brother used like those metal toy Tonka trucks and would hit me with them, or he would grab a cactus and start stabbing me with it. or a
Mhm.
tennis shoe and start hitting me with it, you know. Anyway, my
I'd
childhood.
like to I'd like to take and if we can address Anders' comment right here, because a lot of people think by what you're doing and some of the stuff I might be saying as I'm learning and growing more from you and Ken, that we're telling them you got to throw out the English Bible altogether. You can't get nothing out of it. There is no, that's not what we're saying at all. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it's a good thing. I'm glad you brought that up, Anders, because I don't want people to get confused and think that you can't learn anything from the English,
Oh,
because
I learned a ton.
yeah, there's a lot of conversations me and Carrie have had. I've come in to know some things that are in the sacred languages, but I didn't know from reading the sacred languages. It was through the guidance of the Spirit reading the English. So I mean, it's nobody saying you got to. That's why I said a lot of people take it. It's what they hear and what they think. That uh, well, because you're saying this, that means I got to throw this whole thing out. No, that's not what's being.
No. So the way I like to see the Bible is about the external orientation. In the English narrative, it is mother's teaching of the divine masculine in your external orientation. How to relate to God, how to relate to other people externally. But when you get to that place where you have that and you have met that requirement of mother's teaching, receiving her Tov, there is something in you that is going to say there has to be something more.
Mm-hmm.
Because what'll happen is you'll begin, like, if you're like me, if you're a person that is very word oriented like I am, I would comb through the scriptures. I mean, I was in and through the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, drawing lines, connecting this and connecting that. And I mean, I did that for years and years and years and years, but there was something that was still, I just wasn't satiated. There was something more to be had because it wasn't completing the journey. It was when
Mm-hmm.
I started digging into the original languages to see the hidden teaching of the Father.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay, so if we were to back up, if you were to do external translation of and read it through the words of in that culture of the Bible in Aramaic and Hebrew, you would have an external orientation.
Mm-hmm.
The oral tradition was to teach how to read the code, how to break the words apart, to see, to be able to go on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
the part that's missing because you lose all of that in English. You get the external extrapolation. Okay, we're going to put a meaning here. We're going to say this word means this because we can see that in the definition, even though there's like 20 different options. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
choose one word and we're going to force it there, but it's all external orientation. But you don't get to see all the other intricacies because they remove that. Because the English letters have no meaning to them. A doesn't mean anything. A B doesn't mean anything. A C doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So it actually removes that choice from you.
I'm
So
super glad. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll let
I
you
was going to
finish.
say, so what it does is it keeps you in the Yod-He. It keeps you in the masculine orientation of the divine masculine building without having the finality of the resolve of the finesse that comes from the deeper work to bring both into balance and harmony. So you're always lopsided. And that is why the whole external orientation of the English Bible will say, look at the light and there's evil. It's a book of duality. Mother teaches you duality.
Mm-hmm.
What is right? What is wrong? What is good and evil? What is dark? What is light? That is what the external orientation is to make you aware of the dual system. But because there's nothing else there, it doesn't show you how to render it into one. It leaves little nuggets, like Yeshua is saying in John 17. I wish that they all understood that we were one. So there's
Mm-hmm.
these little nuggets that you find along the way, but it never shows you the fullness of the resolve and how to get there, except for the little nuggets. Go within, the kingdom is within, right? So
Mm-hmm.
nobody has to learn the languages. The key is to go within. Allow the spirit to show you, because there's many revelations that everybody's sharing right now that are backed up by the sacred writings in the Hebrew and the Aramaic as a foundation that can be slipped under. Nobody needs to study the language. Nobody.
Yep.
Only if the spirit is telling you to do so.
Sure.
only if you're being drawn to that vibrational frequency. And if you are, great. If you're not, then go do what you're supposed to do, what the spirit is telling you to do. Don't even bother with the languages.
Yeah. I
It's
love I,
painstaking.
I love how the spirit works, man, because I didn't even talk to you about this at all, but because this come up and you're speaking exactly what the spirit told me, because yesterday the spirit spoke to me. I didn't even ask a question, but was explaining to me basically what happened and what they did with the Bible that we have is he said they've taken everything that's an internal reality and truth, and they've given you an external story about it
Yes.
and given you
Yes.
characters and
Yep.
names and that. So I'm not saying that, Moses and all that didn't go on the mountain. I'm not saying that Jesus wasn't real or none of that other stuff. That's not what I mean. But they've taken things that are true, a true ultimate reality within you, and they've characterized it and narrated it into a story so that you're always fixed externally. You're never going internal within yourself, which is why Jesus said, go within. The kingdom is in you. Everything you're looking and studying these scriptures day and night, thinking eternal life is in them and it's in you. But you won't go
Exactly.
within because you're so externally focused.
And it keeps you trapped into the narratives of the past so that you never live in your now. Or it projects a future reality that you're waiting to come.
Mm-hmm.
So you're living
Yep.
divided. You're
Yep.
either in the future too much, just waiting for the savior to come,
Yep.
waiting for all of this stuff to fall apart through the book of Revelation. You're waiting for all of this to come to have a manifested savior come to take you out of this mess. So you're always living in the future projection, or you're
Mm-hmm.
stuck in the past history of what was instead of the responsibility of the now action in your life right now,
Mm-hmm.
because you're
Yep.
projecting it two different ways.
I asked the creator, because in Revelation, we're reading about the end of the world and how we've been taught about it and all this other stuff. And I remember a while back, and the creator brought this to my remembrance the other night as I was just walking outside at night, in meditation and in prayer. And I asked him a long time ago, when is the end of the world going to come? And the creator asked me, when is it going to come for you? Revelation is
That's
about
so good. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
the creator was like, it's showing me, we externalize it and think that this is just going to be the annihilation and total obliteration of earth.
Right.
When is it going to be your end of the world, how you see it, and come into the reality and truth as it is? When will that happen for you? And I was like, it knocked me on the ground, man. And I was like, holy crap, dude.
I
Because
know.
if it's all within, and I've taken this ever since I grabbed a hold of that revelation where, Yeshua said the kingdom of heaven is inside of you. I've tried to relate everything that I read in the Bible English to something going on inside of me. Because if the kingdom's in
Exactly.
me,
Yep.
then it's something going on in here. I mean, if people, I'm not, hey, if this is how you believe, this is how you believe. But if you literally think that a dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns is going to come in out of the ocean, I think you're going to be waiting a long time for that. I don't think that's going to happen. But it does correlate with things in your body, you
Right.
know.
Exactly.
Could a
Exactly.
dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns come out? Sure, sure, I
Well,
guess.
if you know what the thing is that we're manifesting it. So
That's right.
if you put your energy into, okay, so if you take your creator energy and you are focusing on the words of the narration that they gave you, and you're coming from the place of your heart, and then you're putting the intent up here, when these things two unite, you are creating your reality through the
Mm-hmm.
intent of the mind, through your pineal gland, and the intent and the feeling of the heart. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're creating love, that's what you're going to see. If you're creating fear, that's what you're going to see. And that whole biblical narrative is all fear based until the Savior comes.
Mm-hmm.
So that will play out for those who want to be in that narrative. That is not my narrative,
Mm-hmm.
because I've
Nope.
gone through the book of Revelation and I've seen what it says through the coding, through the esoteric side, through the hidden portion of Aramaic. And that whole thing is you're becoming the dragon. You're becoming the Kayutha. You are becoming, and it's uniting the power of your lower and your higher into oneness unity. Yod Aleph, over and over and over again. So if you
Yeah.
want the narrative to play out, then that is what you are going to live, because you are focusing your creator energy to make it happen. It is the playbook they use. Now, I want to back up a little bit, because I don't really want to beat up the translators too much, even though I do believe there was an agenda for it. When they were translating these writings, it was based upon the level of consciousness that they were at. So
Yep.
therefore, the consciousness that they had at the time is how they saw to translate. And everything was heavy, dominant, male, masculine, heavy, dominant, fear, heavy, dominant, ego. So therefore, every time they had to choose a word, it was going to fall within that portion of the consciousness in which they embodied at the time of the translation.
Yeah. And now we're rising in the consciousness, and
Yes.
ready for this stuff. This is why I said today, and I would love for us, if you're ready to transition into that, and us going over kind of Romans 10 and what was Yeshua talking about when he says anyone who calls upon my name will be saved, and all that. I want you to talk about that. But he said in the English, everything I will do you can do, but greater. So it's like how I wrote in my post today. It's like a master and a student. The old kung fu movies, I did that. The master, if I'm a good master, my every intention for my student is to surpass me. To surpass me in my knowledge and my skill and in my ability, because in that my true mastership will be shown and made evident, that man, like, this dude is a master. His student surpassed him. So it's like the master, the teacher becomes the student becomes the teacher becomes the student. How if we're not moving forward and we're only waiting on Jesus to come back in the sky, and we put everything on him all the time, then we're staying in that student. We're not even elevating ourselves up to a master teacher position in which he wanted us to. Much less will we ever do the greater and surpass. And I know people might say, well, that's blasphemous, Brandon, or whatever. You're trying to take what I'm saying. That's what Jesus, that's what Yeshua asked us to do. He said, become everything that I am. Walk
and
like
more.
me, talk like me, and surpass me.
Exactly.
I want you to do greater than I did.
Well, and the reason why that is, so think about it here. He could only present himself as mother in the fulfillment of the complete divine masculine to unlock the potentiality to bring the divine feminine back. Right. He was not being able to operate in the world where the divine feminine was present, because he had to open the door for that energy to come in.
That's right.
So he could only go so far. So the reason why we will be doing the greater things is that we are not going to be kept at Yod He. It'll be Yod He Vav He to bring the fire, the sheen, back into us. The one fire, the consuming fire that happens when the divine entities within us are united, the sacred burning heart. The sacred burning heart. You see the Catholic picture, right? And it's always got the heart aflame. Well, that's because you are having the divinity restored in you with your masculine and your feminine energies that are having intercourse, interrelated. That is this burning heart that is producing new seed and new germination, that is creating a new being that is no longer divided. He could only represent half of it. He had to open the door for the energy to come for those who were ready for the way of one. But the government systems were not ready for that, because they were still in that divine masculine energy, and it hadn't reached to the point of futility yet, right? It hadn't reached the culmination of vanity like we're getting to right now.
That's right.
And so that is why the church, why the Roman government, why the religious authorities had to kill everyone that was walking in oneness unity, because it was a threat to the entire system and was going to bring the whole system down.
Mm-hmm.
But and that was in kind of that local region, right? That's why Paul went out and why the disciples went out and why the persecution was so important, because they were trying to send the message out.
Mm-hmm.
Persecution will always cause, people to flow out
Mm-hmm.
so that they can take their message. But we have the internet.
That's right.
We don't have to go anywhere.
No.
So we just
No.
start fires within, right where we're at, and we're blowing up the internet. We're blowing
Mm-hmm.
up the regions that we live in with our hearts burning ablaze. And you can bet your sweet bottom dollar they see us.
I think I've heard fire so much. I just want to share this with you. When I went, me and Daniel went traveling around last year, when he was up, the Spirit spoke in me so clear. What you're doing now, what I'm having you do now, is like a small spark to dry wood. I am flames. He said, I'm going to sweep the whole nation with a fire, and this is the start of it. This is what, not that we're not, I'm not saying that has nothing to do with us, not that we're
No,
special or anything like
no.
that. It's just what the Spirit put in my spirit, that's what was going to it was going to start things. It was going to stir things up a bit to start this fire that he wants to sweep across the world, man, and purify it, So just
Well,
fire
again,
keeps coming back. So
one fire, the
that's
Ish,
right.
what was in the covenant in the beginning. The one
Mm-hmm.
fire is meant to burn away everything that separates and divides us in order to bring us into oneness, unity. And
That's
that's
right.
literally why everything is falling apart right now, because everything that is separating and dividing us is no longer sustainable, because the earth is moving into and has moved into a higher level of consciousness. And we're the ones that are having to get caught up. She's
Yeah, we're
already,
playing catch up.
we are playing catch up. And that's why there's so much, uh, because that lower beast ego wounded child does not want to get let go because it's too afraid. It is afraid it's going to get hurt again at the heart level. So it is kicking and screaming because it doesn't trust. This is why yesterday when I was
Mm-hmm.
sharing on my personal live stream that I woke up with the word trust. Bet, tet, het. Inside you're going to wrestle because you're separated.
Mm-hmm.
And the resolve is on the inside, overcome the wrestle, and then you'll find life. And then that's trust. But you don't
Mm-hmm.
trust because you're wrestling yourself on the inside. So
That's
that
right.
kicking and screaming beast ego wounded child shadow is needing to be released, to be integrated so that you can manifest it externally. And the pressure is going to continue increasing. All of these energies coming in are forcing that side of us out. That's why we're seeing chaos manifesting everywhere in the world right now, because all of our wounded child inner shadow work is surfacing and it's manifesting in the earth everywhere. Chaos, more and more
Yep.
chaos.
Whoop.
It's
Yeah,
perfect.
that's exactly what the Spirit showed me a couple of years ago, was with what happens and takes place, what's going on right now, is what we'll be seeing is actually an individual's, demons, if I can use that word, um, manifesting externally on the outside, but all this trauma, all this stuff that's been undealt with, that's what's being manifested, but it's coming out as anger, as hate, as division, as chaos. That it's coming out that way, but it's just, they're the wounded, hurt little kids that never got to get healed, and that's how it's coming out.
Well, and the earth literally has to purge it all.
Yeah.
It has to purge
Yeah.
it all because we're not taking it with us. That's
Mm-mm.
all the lower density. That's those lower three chakras survival that needs to be purified and purged through the fire that is going through us if we allow it to happen. That's why we have to heal those lower chakras. If you
Mm-hmm.
want your Merkaba, if you want your light body to be connected to earth as she's ascended, we have to do the work. And it's forcing it right now. It literally is forcing it all to the surface. And
Yeah.
it's not fun. It stinks. But at the same time, it's beautiful because when you overcome that wrestle and you shine that light onto the shadow and you welcome it home into the safe place of the heart, oh my gosh, it is the peace that goes beyond all understanding. It
Right.
literally is the peace that goes beyond all understanding because you overstand it. You're overstanding that portion of you that used to be the part that was causing all the chaos, because you finally decided to pay attention to it.
Yeah. And I don't want people to think too, because I've had these thoughts as well, that like, you're riding high, man. You're vibing high. Everything's going good. Maybe a new round of energies come in, or something triggers and happens and it exposes something. That's good. Embrace it. Don't think, oh, I'm wavering. I'm being tossed to and fro everywhere. It has to come up. Things
Yes,
that are in, and you don't know. Like, how do you know what to look for if you don't know what you're looking for? You
exactly.
don't know to see it. But the energies, I actually look at it as Gaia, Mother Earth, is healing us. We're not healing her. She's getting her healing from a source outside of us. Not outside of us. I don't want to use that language like a division, but you know what I mean.
No,
She's
I
getting
do
hers
know what
from.
you mean. It's coming from the logos.
That's
It's
right.
coming
It's
from the
coming from
sun.
the Logos.
Yeah, it's coming from the logos. It's coming from the sun that is communicating with her and bringing healing in revealing. And so really, you were listening the other day, and the way I had seen it with the law of one through Ra was that the logos and the sub logos and the sub logos is, you've got the logos, which would be Yeshua. You've got the sub logos, which is Elohim. And then after the Elohim is the sub logos, everything that the Elohim has created.
That's right.
So it's coming from the pattern that was given to us. Logos is Greek for word, by the way, just to let you
That's
guys
right.
know. So that's just Greek, but the vibrational frequency, Greek doesn't have a vibrational frequency like Hebrew and Aramaic. So it's void of that. It doesn't register when you go into cymatics like Sanskrit, Greek, and Hebrew do. So the logos is really the word. So that, with all of the intricacies of all the combinations that is connected to our DNA, is what then manifested down into the creators, from the logos to the sublogos to the sub logi. So it just filters all the way down. So as we are healing ourselves, we're then matching the frequency of that which the logos, the sun, is bringing this information into the earth to continue our maturation process. We can go kicking and screaming, or we can allow it to do its work and surrender to the process and look at our shadow.
That's
You
right.
are making it as difficult as you want it to be, or as easy as you want it to be.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Surrender or don't. Stay in your prison or be released. Stay attached to the narratives or release the narratives. It's all up to you, and it's okay whatever you choose, because it's your experience. But like I said, I don't want to repeat third density again.
Yeah, no, I'm done. Gosh,
No, please
I,
no.
I sure hope I learned my lessons, and whatever question I set out here to ask, I hope it got answered, because I'm ready for something not so traumatic, not so hard. It's just hard. It's real hard here.
Well,
I don't want to.
they call us in this density the children of sorrow for a reason.
Yeah, dude. I read that. It was like I think in Raw and stuff, they said like really like only like the bravest of souls want to really come to Earth. Some of
Yeah.
them they have to for learning reasons and experiences. Everyone will and has in this universe, even if they're higher than us, has experienced Earth. They have. You will. You can't get them. You can't bypass it.
No.
But it's the bravest ones that volunteer and are like, "Yeah, I'll go."
I'll go.
Yeah. And then we get here and we're like, "Man, what was I thinking, dude?
This sucks. I don't like this one bit. Let me out. Let me out, right? I just can't wait to leave. And it's like, okay, I get that. But what are you gaining through the experience of being here, right? Because that's what creates wisdom.
That's right.
So, it is a gift to be here. And yeah, it's full of pain and suffering. And yeah, it hasn't been a whole lot of fun in places in our life. But I love when new revelations come in and it kicks you up just a little bit so that you can deal with the pain and sorrow that you had. Because then that's how everything's turned into joy. And you're like, this has been an incredible journey. And because when you deal with your wounded child, it no longer sucks.
Yeah.
Right? The only reason why it sucks is because you're stuck in pain and suffering. So transmute all of that, embrace the wounded child, heal yourself, and then you'll see the beauty for what it is. And then it doesn't suck, because you just detached yourself from all the narratives that you think are so horrible that you want to escape from.
Yep.
and you live in that place of divine peace. And it's like, oh, this is so beautiful. So then you go outside and you connect with nature and you see the beauty of creation, becoming one with it. You don't have the pain and suffering anymore. You got
Mm-hmm.
rid of it. Pain and suffering is only for you to pay attention to your wounded child. That's it. That's all it's meant. It's a catalyst. What's going on?
And when me and you were talking the other night, you said that we will make it only as hard on ourselves as we want it to be. I think I sent you a thing. I love it. Smashing Pumpkins in their song "Vampires" said, despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a cage. But that's what they've gotten us to do. We don't understand that. We see like these kids that are in sex trafficking rings, and they get out, right? They have total freedom after they're released, but they will still, for a while, until they go through that and heal from it, they will still seclude themselves to a single room in a house, or to their house and not else. But even those of us that have appeared freedom are still that rat in a cage, because we're getting dopamine hits, we're getting our heroin hit, our cocaine hit from the ego, and the only option for you is freedom. That's it.
Right.
You're
Well,
already a slave.
and the hit is coming from the adrenaline that is
That's right.
released through fear.
That's right.
So you attach yourself to the narratives of what's going on, and you're like, oh my gosh, and you just got your hit.
That's right. And I'm not saying y'all as in like I've
No.
mastered this or something. That's
No,
not what
no, no, no.
still, trust me, I still have daily things that come up in me, and I have to work it out too.
Me too.
I am not some ascended master or whatever, although maybe I am and I don't know, but no, that's ego. But I'm just saying, like, I'm not. I deal with things every day. I actually said that to be funny, not to put myself on a pedestal or anything.
No, you and I mean, we've had lots of real conversations, and that's what we're trying to present here. This has nothing to do with puffing ourselves up. This is like real conversations based on things that we're all having to face, that we're having to transmute, subjects that we don't really want to. I mean, we do want to talk. See, this is the thing. Brandon and I want to have these discussions with one another, because we know that we're wrestling these things out. And so if he can bounce an idea off of me and I can bounce an idea if I'm in, it's like, hey, let's go in the sacred languages and see what it's saying. Oh, okay, that makes sense. And then we have you guys come on to share your experiences with us, because we are in this together. This is not a divided journey. This is a united journey. And that's why we're sharing, and yes, we are talking about other external sources, because we didn't limit our perception to just one book. The spirit is leading us to gather all of the information that's necessary for us to rise up and out of the beast ego matrix system, to rise above fear that binds us and keeps us in a limited mindset, so we can have the second exodus up and out of the matrix and find out who we really are, and not what we've subjugated ourselves to think we are.
Mm-hmm.
To know who we are. And there's a big difference, because of what we have been programmed to believe in our limited mindset based on one book. There is lots of information that can be gleaned everywhere.
Yeah, I could show you all my little library right now.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also take what you need from that book. It doesn't mean like everything written in that book is true and you should hold to it. It's guidance. Every book I've read and I have in my collection, I was guided by the spirit to get, or the spirit placed it upon me, or whatever, but I read it through spirit. And if something, I don't need it, I don't even retain it anyway. I don't even have to try. It doesn't stick. I can't. I can try to hold on to it all I want to, but I won't. So the spirit just helps me retain what I need from that and go forth, move on,
And then if you need to go reread that book again a second time, you'll glean more out of it, because you're at a different place in your consciousness level that you can receive more.
Absolutely.
You're going to flush what you can't use at that moment in time. So yeah, that's why I like having books, because if there's something with the power grid going down or something like that, in the external, I don't even worry about it. When the internet goes down, the place that I'm staying right now, the house that I'm sitting at, their internet is terrible, and it'll go down for 3 or 4 days. I'm like, I got all my books. I'm good. I don't need to get on the internet. You may not be hearing from me. I may not be posting, but I'm good. I got everything that I need. I can keep moving right along. So with that, why don't we dive to get into what you wanted to discuss? Because I shared the Yoda Aleph revelation. I wanted to look and compare those two verses, the one that you were looking at Romans 10, and then the one that I had dug out within Acts 2, verse 21, to see the subtle differences between the two, because essentially the verses are saying the same thing. So,
Hmm.
I mean, this is like a hard right. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Pull it on over to a different, but it's all connected, right? Everything,
Yeah.
all is connected to all. So let's
Yeah.
go into what we were wanting to get to at the very beginning. I've got to
And
figure out one.
while you pull that up, one, I'm gonna ask if I can take a quick little restroom break, and
Yeah,
two, the reason for that is just because I wanted to know myself, and just to be clear on what the sacred languages are talking about when Jesus said that anyone who calls upon my name. What is that? Is it anyone who just you go to a church and you say a prayer and Jesus save me? Is that what he's talking about when he says that? So that was kind of my wanting to let's get clarity and see what these languages are saying when he said that. So
yeah,
if y'all give me
absolutely.
just a second while you pull that up and you want to talk, you can. I'm going to use the restroom real quick. I apologize and I'll be right back.
No, go for it. I could be really goofy right now and just sit here and stare at all of you, waiting. But that's just not me. Although I don't know, we could have a big epiphany moment. Where we're talking and not talking at the same time. Because one of these days we're going to just be communicating telepathically anyway, and I can't wait for that. There won't be any way to lie at that point. So I wanted to show you that the verse that Brandon wanted to go over was Romans 10:13. For everyone who shall invoke the name of the Lord shall be saved, or whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord be saved. But as I was looking, when he was talking to me about this yesterday on Messenger, I decided to take a look and go back a little further to see what's going on here. So, what we'll end up doing is we're going to talk briefly about Romans 10, verse 9, because we have the word Lord Jesus here. And it's important for us to take a look at what Lord is, because you will see something very interesting, that the word Lord is spelled differently in all these verses. Are you back?
I'm back, man. I'm
Okay.
here.
I can't, when I'm showing the screen, I can't see anything. I know you guys can see me, so I'm going to make sure I don't pick my nose. Just kidding. But I'm here. You guys can see me, but I can't see you. I can't see comments. All I can see is my computer screen. So just wasn't sure if you had come back yet.
Yeah,
So
just got
what
back.
I wanted to show Brandon is that I went back a little bit in Romans 10:9, because I wanted to show what the word Lord was in this verse, and then we're going to keep moving it to Romans 13, so that you
Hmm.
can see the different forms of the word Lord. This is so incredible to see. I get so excited when I see this stuff. Okay, the word Lord in this verse is right here. It's Bet Mem Resh Nun. Fallen noon. Lord Yeshua. Lord Yeshua with a fallen noon. Now, I say this because I find it interesting. And if thou wilt confess with thy mouth our Lord Yeshua, but Lord has a fallen noon. So if you are confessing Yeshua to be saved, is because you're in your fallen flesh.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, and you wouldn't see this in English because it's just translated as Lord. So on the inside, you have bitterness because of your fallen flesh, and you need an external savior.
Whoa. Wow.
Because saving is this word right here. It's from the word kaya, but it doesn't even have the yod in it. There's no power on the inside. So if you're staying in your fallen flesh and you need an external savior, it's because you haven't found the power that comes from the life on the inside, because life comes from oneness. And the only way you're going to find oneness is by going in the inside to be able to find the power. Because here's the word for death or death. Mem Vav Tav is the root, but now you have the power over death because you found oneness.
Mm.
but that's an inside job. And you hear us say that all the time. So here's that word for Lord. So it's all about the inside. Where are you on the inside? If you're still having bitterness on the inside, then you're dealing with wall and flesh. You're going to need an external savior, because Yeshua in its root talks about having help in the time of need. It also means a rock, the rock that gives you power. But this word, I think, is it in Arabic? Shua, in another language, because they're all closely related, these Semitic languages, this means rays of light. So you are looking for that which is bringing rays of light to you while you're in your fallen flesh, so that you can get out of the chaotic waters and raise yourself up, because you're poor and destitute. Why? Because you're bitter on the inside. Okay, so that's Romans 10:9.
So this would be where y'all talk about too. Are you looking at it or as it?
Right.
If you're focused on the external, you're going to be looking at it, never as it, and you're always going to be dependent upon an external savior. But once you go within and realize it's already been in there for you the whole time, now that's where Jesus would be like, now I call you brother. I'm not just a master or a lord over you. I'm brother. I'm equal. You're equal now.
Well, and brother is Aleph Het, one who has found life. Now,
boom.
Okay, having said that, one who has found life, Aleph Het, look at the word for Kaya in this verse. Him who is saved, Kaya, you have the power on the inside. Now, what's so amazing, okay, so remember we were talking about the Yod Aleph? Here's Yod Aleph.
Oh, wow.
Right here. Life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was missing. Here, there's no Yod Aleph here. But it's here. The power of oneness.
But we read it in the English both the same, right? It's both saved.
Yes. And you would not see this. Now, here's something interesting to note. The Yod in Gematria is, the Aleph is 1. When you do the toroidal math, you odd out the 0. So Yod is 1, Aleph is 1. So Yod means power, means, and direction given through a vision in order to get into oneness unity. So this is the power of oneness, but it's the power to become one. So life and salvation has to come. You were once separated, but then you found life through the covenant because you have the power of oneness on the inside. You became it. That is what you're being saved from, being separated.
Wow.
So moving on a little bit further, let's go into, oh man, there's so much here that is so flippin' amazing, but we would be here all day. We would. Okay, now look at the word Lord. There's no fallen noon, and it's Yod Aleph.
Wow.
One who was once bitter that now is the power of one, coming out of the waters of chaos, being raised from being spiritually poor and destitute, because I know people don't like me to say that, but 20 years ago, I was spiritually poor and destitute, but I raised myself up to be a first fruit because I walked through the path of bitterness in order to find the power of oneness. This is like sovereign language here.
Yeah. Wow.
And then it says, Lord of them all, Kaf Lamed. This is the bride who has received the crown, who has been made full, that has wealth and riches, because she went through the door of the inward man, delivering herself from her weak, feeble, and poor position. That which was dangling she connected to and is now crowned with wealth and riches. This is so good.
Wow.
Now, for everyone who shall invoke upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. The bride, the sojourner that found the power within their heart, found the spiritual path, compressed light in the circle of time, finding the narrow path between the light and dark, who was once spiritually poor and destitute, raised up to be a first that has become one, who now has the ability to see and is a judge. That compressed light within them, in their heart. That's the word call, by the way. Invoke.
Wow.
Name, Shem. Those who walk through the fire, and the waters of chaos that got the revelation of their hidden, their darker self, their shadow. But they are of the name, marked with individuality of those having honor, authority, and character, that are now of the blood, Dom,
Mm.
that are Lord, that walked the bitter walk through the chaos, raising themselves up to have the power of oneness, now entering into the place of saving. But look at this. You already have the Yod Aleph, so the Yod doesn't need to be here for life. The reason why it was penned this way, this is the word that spells rest.
Mm.
This is the word Noah, Noach. You enter into rest, the Sabbath day rest that we're trying to enter into. Rest is oneness.
Wow.
And right here, Het Aleph, if you flip the letters around, this is the brotherhood, Aleph Het.
Wow.
One life, one life. So when you hear brotherhood, it means one life, oneness. So this is how we know we enter into rest, when we find oneness, because we are going to continue to war and strive and wrestle and struggle until we bring both the male and the female that we were created, divided into oneness on the inside. That's when you have shalom, because you audit everything out into 0 point into your heart. This is why we don't attach ourselves to the narratives, because we don't have fear anymore. Fear comes from not comprehending things. Oh, you're different from me. I can't figure you out. The divine masculine and divine feminine energy. Whoa, you're opposite to each other. You have a negative pole and a positive pole. I don't know if I can handle it. Oh, wait, we're really one. Takes the fear out of everything. I do not care what the narratives that they are bringing out in the world. I do not care what the narratives say, because I found peace on the inside. I'm waiting to escape the matrix. I'm either going to escape in my Merkaba body, or I'm going to be killed. And either one is just fine with me, because I have no fear.
Right.
So
this has this is nothing to do with. I'm trying to be very careful here. I'll put this for people that might watch this and aren't used to us, but this has nothing to do with Jesus living inside of you. This has to do with the power. It's a power. It is what Paul said, right? The mystery hidden from all the ages is Christ in you. It's this love power that is in you that is able to unite the upper and the lower.
Because the power is activating your light body.
Right.
That's power. Because your power source has been powered up. Your Merkaba, your light body, has been powered up because you connected the lower chakras to your upper chakras. So now your Merkaba is flowing. That's power. You're a power generator. See, like we put on religious words and we connect ideas and things from the ego that disconnect us from that which it's really talking about.
Yep.
You know, and so it's important that we reframe what this construct is. And I'm showing all of these things to you guys in Hebrew and Aramaic. This is not conjecture. This is what has been written through the letters themselves, through their definition. I'm not making shit up here. Yes, I use that word. Profanity doesn't bother me. I'm not making stuff up. It is what has been written that was given to us, and now we have the eyes to see it. Because we've had enough light come in that it's now being revealed to us, because we are at the time and age that these energies are coming in to support us as we are shifting to this higher level of consciousness, so that we can move on with Gaia. We can continue on in this journey, in this sojourn together.
Yep.
Riding along with her. Because it's really about her ascension. We're just riding along with her because we're one with her. We make it all about ourselves, but it's not really about ourselves. It's about her and us riding with her because we are one. So if we try to divorce ourselves from all of that, and it's like, we are one. We are one with everything. We are one with everything. We are one with everything. And the thing is, it can only be spiritually discerned. We can say it until we're blue in the face, but until that revelation hits you right here, and you begin to burn with this fire in you, recognizing that you're one with everything, it changes your world, but it can only be spiritually given and discerned.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll just argue it. That's where I'm at and where I'm seeing things. It's the scripture you talked about. It's about earth, right? The scriptures in the English say wisdom is vindicated through her children. You know. So, and with Jesus, it's it's not a dishonoring to me. If I truly want to honor Yeshua and what he came to do, it's going to be what I said earlier. It's going to be rising to what he's called me to rise to, and then go do greater, surpass me in what I've done. That's truly honoring what he did, not
Yes.
just because I go around and I say Jesus all the time and I'm preaching and it's Jesus, 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 Jesus. That's not your that's lip service. The Bible would talk about. You're not really doing what he did. And again, this is not a shot at nobody. If it hits, it was meant to hit. It's broadswording. I have nobody in my mind that I'm thinking of when I'm saying this other than myself, because I did it. And this is a huge wrestle that I've had with me,
Oh,
is
yeah.
that fear. But if we're still afraid to release Jesus in that way that we've looked at him through the church, then we're still in need of an external savior. And
Exactly.
that's the truth. We really haven't gone in and looked and found it inside of us. We can say it with our mouth all we want to, but we really haven't.
That is because our wounded child is waiting to be rescued. That's why when it said Lord Jesus in verse 10:9, it had the fallen flesh.
Yeah.
And resh nun, means to cry out. So when you're on your fallen flesh, okay, so mem resh nun. Mem is the waters of chaos. Resh nun is crying out. So your fallen flesh, your beast ego, your wounded child is crying out and waiting for a savior to come.
Mm-hmm.
You are that savior.
That's right.
Because you are to bring that wounded child back into the place of the heart to know that it's safe to come home. Home is where the heart is.
That's
Hello,
right.
people. The home
That's
is
right.
where the heart is. We say it all the time. I'm pointing all the fingers back at me right here. Home is where the heart is. That little wounded child wants a rescuer, wants somebody to take it back home. I just want to go back home. I just want to go home. I want to get out of this planet. I want to get out of it. Come into your heart. That's where home is. That's where source dwells. That's where creator dwells. That's where the fire is. That's where oneness unity is. Then it doesn't matter where you live and it doesn't matter what's happening in the world because you found home.
Mm-hmm.
Home plate, safe. In
That's
mind,
right.
body, state, shalom. You completed the journey. You went around the compass. You made a full circle. You now brought the upper and the lower together, oneness unity with the burning heart. You made it. You're saved.
That's right.
It doesn't matter anything else. You came home. Here's interesting. Malak versus Melech. Melech is king. Malak is angel. I'm using that loosely because it also means a messenger, and it also means priest, prophet, and teacher. The difference between Melech, king, and Malak, angel, is an aleph is added on the inside of the angel messenger.
And that's oneness unity, right?
Yeah, oneness unity on the inside. So in other words, the messenger, the prophet, the priest, and the teacher is one that found unity on the inside. They married their divine masculine and their divine feminine. They got rid of fear. They got rid of the beast ego. They united it. They came home in their heart, in the center of their being. Oneness unity. They are now a messenger. They are now an angel. This is what Qumran community was teaching, angel morphology. So you can be a king in this world and build your kingdom, or you can build the kingdom of oneness on the inside and become the messenger of that.
That's right.
Because it embodies king or queen.
Right.
And in actuality, queen in Aramaic is malakha, melech with an aleph.
That's right.
Malakha. The queen of heaven is one that found oneness unity on the inside. Malakha, an angel messenger. Why do you think many times angels are, the way they show them is female? In actuality, they would be androgynous, really.
That's right. That's right.
They would be, because there wouldn't be it's the two that have become one. So they
Mm-hmm.
don't need to manifest a female body or a masculine body. They are the embodiment of both.
Mm-hmm. That's where they
So
talk in the spirit world. They're able to instantly manifest anything that they think about because the male and the female are no longer divided at all. They're together. They're oneness. They don't need
so they
it's
fully create.
right.
They
It's
create through the sperma, through that which is the intention, and then they manifest it because they have both parts. Because all of creation has the golden mean ratio and the Fibonacci sequence. It's all combined together. So
mm-hmm.
when we combine that together, that's how we're creating our reality. We're not dividing it. It's not lopsided. We manifest that which we create once we find oneness. We just need to remove the limitations off of here. We need to
Mm-hmm.
bring in the future promises into our now and take the past that has been holding us up and bring it into our now and marry them into our now quantumly, affecting our past and our future into our present.
That's right.
Man, a whole lot of good stuff here. I do want to show you that other verse that I was looking at. There's only it's shorter, and there's only two words that are different. The one in Acts 2:21 that I actually broke down and I put on the channel that I sent you the video of, that I broke into detail. Well, I want to show this really quickly, and then we're going to have to land the plane because I got to meet with Regina here in just a few minutes, my friend.
Yeah, I figured we've been on almost 2 hours
2 hours.
now. Gosh,
Yes, we have.
doesn't seem that long.
It doesn't. It flies by. Okay, so here's the difference. So the same phrase that we were looking at before, all of this is the same. This is exactly the same. Calling upon the name of the Lord saved. The difference is in the beginning of this verse, it talks about all here, but this is also the same word for bride and the same word for crown and the same word that means to be whole.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And then the very beginning of this, when we take a look at it, the very first word is Hey Vav Aleph, which means was, be, and turn. So this is connected to Haya. So remember, I've shared before, Eye Asher Eye. Eye is I am. And that is Aleph, Hey, Yod, Hey, which is the root of Yod He Vav He. Well, in this case, this is to turn the revelation that connects to oneness. And how did that happen? Well, you first had to connect to Mother, and you had to take the spiritual path, which is the seed of life, connecting to your fallen flesh, but choosing to rise above it through the revelation that came so that you could connect to oneness unity. There's a bride who is then crowned as judge, who is calling out to others because they went through the compression of light, finding the narrow path, raising them up to oneness unity so that they had the ability to see who are of the living fire and water, those who have honor, authority, and character that have revealed their shadow side will reveal the divine feminine that are Lord over their lives because they became the blood of one. They went through the walk. They found the power that was necessary for oneness unity, bringing the mother and father into one, no longer being divided as Yod He Vav He, but into Yod Aleph, where they found rest and life through oneness unity.
Wow.
We pray and beseech you, look within to find life.
Wow. That's so awesome.
That's what that verse says through the letters.
Mm-hmm.
And there's much deeper revelation. I didn't even take in any of the vowel points. The vowel points are like even a bigger minutia. I mean, I could be talking for another 30 minutes with those in there.
Right. Yeah.
That is the summary of what that verse says. Incredible.
And you already did, though, for those that might be interested. I think you sent me the link, but you already did a video of that Acts breakdown.
Yeah, and I went through a much slower process of it, and then I brought in some of the constituent letters that make up the symbol so that there was more information. Because really, the best way to study the languages to make them personalized for you is to slow the way the heck down. Yeah. Literally, meditate on one word, extract what it's saying, and figure out what's triggering you. Because the information is there with no bias. It's just light, it's just information, and it's just love. So if there's a word that is triggering you, that's because that light is shining on your wounded child that needs to be brought home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's meant to be slowed down. I will never exhaust the sacred languages in this physical vessel. I don't need to, because eventually I will be led exactly where I need to get what I need in order for my light body to be, so that I can overcome death.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll become it, and I won't ever need the word begin, because I will be the word made flesh, just like Yeshua,
Mm-hmm.
the Christ,
That's right. Awesome.
spirit energy that creates.
Boom. I love it, man.
It's so amazing.
I know, dude. I love it, and I get, a lot of it's hard, for those that are struggling, especially. But it's only, like you said, it's only as hard as we make it. As much as we want to hold on to the narratives that we've been given and what we've thought and what we've built on a faulty foundation, as this, as much as we want to hold on to it, that's just as painful as it's going to be. The
Yes,
easier, the more we can let go of it, the easier it's going to be on us. But if we want to hold on to it,
exactly.
it's going to be painful.
Well, and here's the thing. We want to hold on to the illusion because we're too afraid to let go of the illusion, when the real is waiting for us to let go of the illusion.
That's right. It's freedom. That's all it waits for us is free. We're already in bondage. We're already in the illusion. All that's there is freedom. For freedom's sake, we've been set free.
So this is why we have to take courage, my friend.
Yeah.
Courage to step out of the illusion into the real by divorcing ourselves from the narratives, to see the reality of what really truly exists when we find oneness unity. And then fear no longer has a part of us and no longer has a hold, because that wounded child just came home and sees that everything is of unconditional love. Eureka!
I love.
Woo!
Yeah, I love that.
Party!
Have y'all seen what's the movie that Mel Gibson did, Apocalypto? Is
You know what?
Have you
I'm
seen that?
still waiting to see that. I haven't seen it yet. Like 6 months ago, the spirit said you need to watch it, and I was trying to find it. And my husband and his son saw it, and they both said, "Well, yeah, it's really good. It's there's some things in there that'll be probably hard to watch, but yeah, you probably should watch it."
Yeah. Well, there'd be something. This is when you said that fear. And this isn't giving away anything in the movie, but you'll catch it. I know you'll catch it, even if I didn't tell you, you would. But there's this incident right at the beginning where the leader of the village and his son are there together, and the father sees fear enter his son, and he says, "Look, basically, you've got to handle this right now, right out here. You cannot bring that back into the village, because if you do, it will infect the whole village, and it will
Yes,
be disharmony and chaos in the
yes,
village. You cannot
yes.
bring it in."
That's so true. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Boom. Ended on that note, right? That's this
So if
whole
we want to go
process.
higher,
Get
we
rid of
want to
the
go
fear.
higher and ascend, we have to release fear of everything, of anything.
And the only way that can happen is by perfecting love, which is doing your shadow work and bring that wounded child that is afraid of everything into the place of safety by bringing it back home. That's the only way.
Right.
That is the perfection of love. So if everybody wants to know what the perfection of love is, take the light, heal your wounded child, bring it home into unconditional love, and then you will no longer fear, because you will
Boom,
be a
dude.
standing sovereign in unconditional love, in oneness unity, as a creator of your own reality. And then you will be a malacha, a messenger of the oneness unity, because you became it.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. I love
Yeah.
you so much. I'm so glad that you guys were here. Namaste. I mean, all of you guys. I've been looking at the comments and stuff, and they've been having great conversations while we've been talking too, and I
Yeah.
appreciate it. So those of you guys who want to join the Zoom session, if you feel like you just want to make a day of it, unless you're tired of seeing this mug and hearing this voice, and I totally get it because it's a nice day outside. You can come and join the Zoom meeting, which is going to start in 30 minutes. All the information that you need is in the description box. As soon as I post this video, go into the description box and the invitation to the Zoom meeting is there, but it will be streamed live on YouTube. If you want to join in and not be anonymous, come into the Zoom meeting. If you want to stay anonymous, stay on YouTube. Greg, my friend Greg Herrera, who's in our the feed right now, is going to be the moderator. that will be in there, and you guys can communicate with him. And if he has any questions, or seeing you guys have questions, he will flag them over to me and I'll answer them on the live Zoom. So Brandon, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man. I love you so much.
I love you so much. And I'm really glad I enjoy these conversations. I love taking the mask off. And I love talking about these things because we're all in this together and we're all wrestling together. It's beautiful. Right. One amazing family.
That's right. I love you guys, man. Thank you all for being
Yes, we love you so much. All right. Shalom, shalom, and namaste.